Hello everyone and welcome to Swan Lake Lifestyle. My name is Olivia and I'm a lifelong ballerina who has also worked in the apparel industry. So I'm really excited to share some history about balletcore today, as well as my thoughts on it from a dance and apparel perspective. So go ahead and get cozy, grab yourself a nice drink, perhaps some snacks, and let's get into the video. So believe it or not, balletcore actually started in around the 1940s, 1950s, as the art form was heavily glamorized in fashion and film. For example, big designers like Christian Dior, Yves Saint Laurent, Chanel, Vivienne Westwood, and more have just really fallen in love with this ballet aesthetic, especially like the elegance of it, the beauty and softness of the pastels, the lace, all of that. It's really become a symbol of femininity, as well as just elegance and poise. Some iconic figures that made this aesthetic very popular include none other than Audrey Hepburn, who is a dancer herself and really helped bring this aesthetic to life through movies such as Funny Face. Everyone loved her elegant fashion, and really the idea of being a ballerina was just such a fantasy for so many young girls, and I think that really played a key part in making this fashion just so glamorized and really popular. We also saw a major comeback of balletcore during the 2010 film Black Swan featuring Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis. So, of course in the 2010s we had the mix of the white swan versus the black swan, which is a key part in the actual ballet Swan Lake itself. So it was really interesting to see, not only just like the flouncy, like lacy, elegant pastels, but also a little bit more of the gothic take. Which, both of those sides, there is a duality in ballet which involves the two of them, so I think that was really interesting of how the 2010s brought that to light. And now I've seen a recent resurgence in balletcore, especially thanks to TikTok and celebrities. We've just seen everything from corset tops to shoes that look kind of like ballet shoes to socks that look like ballet shoes. We see balletcore in pretty much everything, including high fashion and the fast fashion industry. Funny enough, I was looking for a new ballet skirt for class and I actually found one on the Dolls Kill website in their Sugar Thrills line, which is more like their girly aesthetic line. That actually became one of my favorite skirts to wear to dance class. Now, I have no idea what it was originally intended for as far as like being part of the fashion launch. Like I couldn't imagine wearing that out in public because it is more of like a ballet practice skirt. Perhaps it was meant to be layered on something. But I do think it's funny how while this fashion I think is mostly meant just to be for, streetwear, of how me as a ballerina actually ended up using something that was meant for streetwear in my classwear. So the fact that some of this clothing can actually have a practical use is really great, but I do have a few more thoughts and perhaps a little bit of a critique on the aesthetic as a whole, especially coming from a dancer and someone who worked in the apparel industry. So let's go ahead and get into that now. So while balletcore is often seen as a dreamy and pink and romantic getaway and aesthetic, I feel like a lot of dancers have this sentiment that, the general public just isn't getting it, isn't getting what ballet is like, what it means and how it feels to dedicate your life to this art form. For example, there's dancers like myself who have danced for basically their whole lives. And while it's really nice to have like an aspirational, like picture perfect aesthetic that's like all pink and beautiful and elegant, there is a side to ballet that is just so driven and determined, and there's a lot of sacrifice that's involved, and it's not, all about fashion. For example, you'll often see, people growing up in their ballet schools having very strict dress codes where you can only wear, for example, a black leotard and pink tights and maybe a skirt. Also, a lot of professional dancers, their warm-ups aren't all pink and pastel and frilly. I think one of the most classic warm-up pieces in a dancer's wardrobe is something that, looks akin to a trash bag. Like they're called ripstops, like they're like trash bag looking pants and outfits. And then also like knitted leg warmers and pants that just kind of look like, I guess, something like a granny would knit. No offense to grannies who knit, but what I'm trying to get at here is, the actual aesthetics of being like a seriously dedicated, like lifelong professional dancer don't always match up with the pink princess balletcore. The garments for these dancers and for myself have a seriously practical wear. For example, the knitted garments that I mentioned earlier, they're not meant to be like aesthetic, they're meant to keep your muscles warm so that throughout practice and rehearsal, you can continue to perform at a level that you need to. So sometimes this training requires outfits that maybe aren't so flattering in order to get the results that you want from your practice. Now, of course, there are professional dancers who do enjoy the pink, girly balletcore aesthetic. It isn't everyone who's, just wearing like these dark grungy clothes. But I just want to put that viewpoint out there that there are a lot of dancers who think like, hey, like this isn't what ballet is about. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like there's actual hard blood, sweat, and tears that go into this, and it's not like a fashion show. So of course that's one viewpoint that I just want to share with you. However, I think it's really important to note that the percentage of people who are pursuing ballet in such a serious professional manner is pretty small in the population. And I know a lot of people just want to live out their dreams of being like a ballerina and just, enjoying immersing in, that aesthetic and that fantasy. And, for those purposes and that viewpoint, like I completely understand wanting to have like a fun pink, pastel aesthetic that you can go ahead and immerse yourself in. And I think that's really beautiful. And also, being a professional dancer, like that's not the only type of ballet dancer there is. Adult beginner ballet is so popular these days, and there are so many adults finding their way for the first time into the dance studio or perhaps returning from a long break. And again, not everyone is training to be a professional, so if the ballet core aesthetic, at least of how it's seen these days, if that really appeals to you, definitely embrace it, no matter what your level is in ballet. You gotta do what makes you feel good at the end of the day. So one more critique that is really important to keep in mind and totally valid is the fact that a lot of these brands these days, especially fast fashion brands, they don't hire professional ballerinas to model their clothing. Now, I understand that not every brand has the budget to hire a dancer who's been training their whole life. However, this mainly stems from safety concerns because I've often seen these brands hire models without dance experience and put them in point shoes and expect them to go on point, which is so incredibly dangerous for the dancers and also sends a bit of a dangerous message to people that just anyone can put on point shoes and give it a try. And that is not true. You need to go through a lot of years of training and definitely get the okay by your teacher and a doctor in order to start point. Also, if brands do have the budget to be able to hire a dancer but choose not to, that's also a sad thing because that dancers work for so much of their life to be able to dance and perform. So it's really missing out on an opportunity to support local artists. Now again, as I said, I understand that not all brands have the budget to hire professional dancers. And in that case, I think it's better just to show the model standing and not trying to perform risky moves in point shoes. Now there's actually a pretty famous Instagram account, at least in the ballet world, called Models Doing Ballet. And they showcase a lot of really, I guess you could say, interesting advertisements from companies who don't hire dancers. And then also a few occasional companies who actually do get the assignment and hire dancers. So I highly recommend checking out their page because it's definitely good to see what's going on in the balletcore fashion world sometimes.
Hello everyone, Editor Olivia here. So while I gave some commentary about balletcore from a ballet perspective, I also want to chime in here real quick about balletcore from a fashion and apparel industry perspective. So of course balletcore fashion is beautiful and it's amazing that more people can join in thanks to affordable options, but it's also important to be mindful of where these pieces come from. A lot of fast fashion is produced in poor working conditions, so while it's more accessible, it often comes at the cost of someone else's well-being. If you're able to, consider saving up for a quality piece you really love, or even try DIY or upcycle something from a thrift store. Now, of course, that actually has its own controversy too, like whether thrifting limits access for those who truly rely on secondhand shopping. It's quite a complicated and nuanced conversation, but I think what matters most is staying aware, doing your best, and making choices that align with your values.
And just something to remember, balletcore isn't all about the fashion. It could be an attitude that you embody. So if you want to embody elegance, grace, determination, dedication, and so many other beautiful, feminine, and just overall amazing qualities, then just have a balletcore attitude. It's not all about the materials that you own. You can also go into the world feeling like you're your best self and like you're ready to take the stage. Now, overall, I actually do like balletcore. I think it's really beautiful and feminine and fun. And I love seeing how brands use balletcore in their different products. For example, I love the brand Flowered Nose, and I absolutely fell in love with their Swan Lake Ballet cosmetic collection. It just really does make you feel like a princess. And you know, I think as a whole, balletcore is not a harmful thing. Well, I understand the critiques, especially as someone who, you know, has danced their whole life and who has worked in the apparel industry. I think, you know, in general, it is a net good. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Do you have any fun balletcore fashion finds that you've seen? Any, I guess, interesting ads that you might have seen? I'd love to hear about it. Just a quick reminder that I do have a completely free beginner ballet class here on YouTube that shows you how to dance ballet for free with no experience needed. And also, all the lessons are in order, so you can start from the absolute basics and work your way up to more advanced moves. If you enjoyed today's video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all those good things. It would really help my channel reach others in the ballet community, as well as those who are interested in fashion and lifestyle and self-improvement. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you had a great time, and I can't wait to see you again soon. Take care.